how will AI help us with the fight against the various problems, diseases?
So do you see what Trump's doing? He's doing exactly what he did with COVID. You know, asking questions. He did this to Fauci and Dr. Birx, okay? Asking them questions. Then the media ran with putting Fauci all over, and he's such a wonderful person. And then, well, no, we found out he wasn't doing good things. And then what happened was, well, Biden pardoned Fauci, so then he's never held accountable. Because we don't have a system that's going to hold anybody accountable. So here's the thing. Trump's doing what he did before. My hope, okay, because I've said that, like, at the hospital level, like when back in 2020, I saw how they were just a political entity. They were no longer an ethical hospital system because of C-suite, all right? And I have been saying for years now that the C-suite executives, whether it's chief nursing officers or they're a psychologist, if they're in a position of leadership and they're continually putting people in danger because they won't staff, and there's plenty of nurses, the nursing associations and all those medical associations, they've used the excuse that there's a nursing shortage, and they've even had to walk that back and say, well, it's this and that, because there's not. There's been nothing but a continual waiting list for people wanting to get into nursing program. There's plenty of nurses, but they were working with Silicon Valley. They were working for Agenda 2030, which is, you know, Silicon Valley too. All the same thing. Silicon Valley is going to be one of the biggest hurdles, in my opinion, because so even though Trump, he signed that order recently, or yesterday, that free speech will return, you're going to find out it's not. But, and I'm not saying because of him, it's that it's even though the federal government's been in with Silicon Valley's controlling your speech. Yeah. YouTube does the same thing they did, even though Trump signed that. Every platform will. And what they'll really do a lot of is just shadow ban you. It's totally true. So, and I think Trump knows that. But the only way that's going to be seen by people, even though I've been telling people, no, your freedom of speech is being controlled by Silicon Valley. That is your tech industry. That is your military-industrial complex. This Sam Altman, he's part of the problem. You know, he recently, in less than a week ago, his sister, filed these charges against him. It was when they were younger, but she said he sexually abused her on a regular basis, sodomized her. And yet, there's a other side of the media that's saying that's not true. And his mother is saying it's not true. But look at Sam Altman. I mean, just go and watch some interviews with him. He's not right. Something not right. But he's out of Silicon Valley. So he couldn't even answer this for Trump. He's like, well, I think it'll do great things, but here, let these people answer. See, they know it's not. And then the next person that answers Trump's question says, well, it's going to help so that, you know, doctors in India can talk to doctors in America and tell them what they do about certain diseases. So what? Like, we could do that now. You need AI? No, what they want AI for in healthcare, and it's why they pushed that there was a nursing shortage, is so they can have an excuse to bring in more AI, more robotic shit. But it's totally not compassionate and uncaring. But there's nothing you can do. Silicon Valley, and I'm not trying to make people not have hope here. My hope is that that this time Trump's executive orders will be carried out. And that there will be, the way they're worded, because, you know, you got to see what happens within the next 100 days, in my opinion, because there's going to be a ton of people having to leave D.C., okay? I mean, as far as your bureaucracy, because the things Trump can't do anything about is the private sector. So even though your healthcare system doesn't operate on the free enterprise system, and many people have said it never has, which is part of the problem, it's absolutely under a monopolistic crony capitalist system right now. I wouldn't even say it's capitalism anymore. It's just a socialist system. And it got there because of your associations of medicine and nursing and their lobbyists. So one thing is hopefully doing something about lobbyists, which a ton of congressmen have said they will do something about it. But so you need to cut that arm of it. But Trump can't, like, even though Trump can get rid of DEI at the federal government level to keep them from, pushing it on employees, there's nothing you could do about the private sector. There's not. So your hospitals, that's why in 2020 they didn't care what Trump said. They have more power than him. They're tied to the UN. That's the reason Trump pulled us out of the, not the UN, but pulled us out of the World Health Organization. It's a total scam. It's just a total scam, all of it. So, because all they did, all these people, the nursing unions, the nursing associations with the UN and that Agenda 2030 and all the hospital C-suite executives, they all signed on to that and said, no, we're more powerful than Trump. We don't care what he says. So that's part of the reason he pulled us out of that, is because they can't show that they can be ethical. But unfortunately, what people are going to have to learn is that the president doesn't have the power to do anything about the private sector because they operate under the free enterprise system. But it's not a free enterprise system anymore, because when all the hospitals were allowed to monopolize, you took it into the socialist system. So maybe there's something in the Constitution they can do with that, because they shouldn't have been allowed to do that. But they have so much power, and Silicon Valley is the ones controlling your speech. So Trump can write the executive order about there being free speech in America, but just realize it's still going to happen, and it's not because it's his fault. It's because Silicon Valley's going to do what they want to do. So what you do about that, I'm not sure. I'm assuming Trump has a plan, though. And let's see, the first 100 days are the most important of any presidency. So he's, been the past 2 days just signing executive order after executive order. So you can go on whitehouse.gov and look at these. But this AI stuff, the one thing that many people say with AI is that it needs to be open. Even though they say it's open, it's really not. Like if I use ChatGPT or any of these, things, somebody's programming it, okay? So it's very DEI programmed as well. So that's not a true open AI system, because its parameters are being controlled. Sort of like somebody, when they shadow ban me on platforms, somebody's controlling my being able to reach others. So it's the same kind of thing. So Trump, I think if Trump, people have said that if you fully open AI up to where there is no controls on it, then it can learn from everybody. But as long as you have somebody programming it to where they can only learn, then I think the whole thing is twisted to begin with. I just do. But if anything, a true open AI system. But how would you ever know if it was truly open? That's part of the problem with it all. But they say if it was truly open, truly learning from everybody, then maybe, but they say it could, come up with things that could be helpful. Regardless. I think what needs to be highlighted here is that even though the federal government is many times involved with Silicon Valley, clearly they are, the military-industrial complex. This executive order Trump wrote for free speech, you're going to find isn't, not that it won't help, it'll help at the federal level, but Silicon Valley is still going to do what they want to do. And so now what you have to do is expose Silicon Valley. They're the most powerful, and I would say the most dangerous and the most stupidest. So let's wait and see what happens. They're literally the prince of the air, if you think about it, because they control the airwaves. And I say prince of the air because it's in the Bible. God said the prince of darkness is the prince of the air, the airwaves, and they literally control all that. To your computers, to your phones. Bet of the devil.